Let's talk about the furry comic, The Day We Met. Standing at around 100 pages, it is a slice-of-life, wholesome love story with themes of race, romance, and cultural divides. Basically, imagine Beastars without the laser focus on violence. We join our main character, Pin, the tufted deer. Yes, the tusks are a real thing, he's not a made-up species, as he's making goo-goo eyes at a fox girl that he's been crushing on for ages. The world is divided between prey species and pred species, and they're exactly what you think they are. Integration was decades ago, so Pin is a part of a new generation that grew up alongside predator species as peers. Unfortunately, Pin is an awkward guy with a tendency to catastrophize and think that others will think bad things about him anytime he screws up, or potentially might screw up. His rabbit friend Rosa says he needs to go talk to the fox girl because pred girls like men of action, and he quickly backs down and says pred girls like pred boys. It only took me a couple of pages to notice that this artwork is gorgeous. Look at the posing, look at the expressions. Even just seated at a lunch table, the characters are always doing something with their hands and their faces. It's really dynamic and impressive. I can kinda see some Disney DNA or some Don Bluth DNA and a few other things here, especially in the eyes and the brows. It's very impressive and frankly makes the entire comic flow really well. It takes serious talent to make table conversation interesting to look at from an artistic perspective. Anyway, Rosa decides that she's fed up with Pin's cowardice and decides to go ask out the fox girl for him, only to find out that she's a lesbian and bags the fox girl for herself. Way to tease a straight furry couple comic. I was hoping I'd finally found a heterosexual romance, but I guess not. There are dozens of us straight furries out there, you know. Dozens, I say! I'm teasing. Anyway, Pin makes a run for it out of sheer embarrassment, and oh my god, look at those legs. Many furry comics have digigrade legs, but look how slender they are. Another excellent artistic choice, making sure the characters are more animal-like than the average furry fare. Pin has tiny legs with even tinier little hooves. The different shapes and sizes and colors of all the characters really sell this world for me. Holy crap. Back to Pin, though. While he's fleeing, he drops his wallet, and it's picked up by a pred boy, Indy the coyote. Indy, being a good boy, checks the ID and brings it back to Pin's apartment. College student with his own apartment, huh? Now we know this is a work of fiction. Maybe his parents are rich. Pin, to his credit, asks Indy to lunch as a thank you. I guess Pin is bisexual. Well, okay then. And again, the comics shows an extraordinary talent for making the mundane funny or interesting. We see Pin gently shut the door after Indy leaves, then realize he's basically just asked the guy out and slam himself into the door in shock. This is so extra and silly, it's hilarious. But really look at it. Look at the slouch, look at the positioning, look at the arms and the hands. This artist has a serious talent with body language, and that is a very rare skill to see in furry comics, especially in slice-of-life comics with not a lot of action that requires dynamic posing. The Day We Met is honestly fascinating in its world building too, as it doesn't stop to explain anything and doesn't linger on characters talking about anything in particular that pertains to the world around them. Some of it is overt, as we get to see street signs reminding citizens not to bolt across lanes of traffic, not to graze on the grass, and so on and so forth. Some of it is more subtle, though, like the tension between preds and preys. Penn stops at an intersection and a cat comes up behind him carrying groceries, but he doesn't come very close. Look at how sad he is. He knows that coming too close to Penn in the dead of night when it's just the two of them would frighten him. Penn scolds himself for being nervous and prey-brained, but the implication is pretty clear, even between these two panels. This guy knows Penn is scared of him because he's a pred and stays back to keep the peace. That is a lot of world building for just one page. This guy never says anything and we never see him again, but without a single word, he told us a lot about this world. And if that's not good writing, I don't know what is. Generally speaking, when two different cultures mesh together, it takes 3 or more generations for the two sides to stop being antsy around each other and reach a peaceful coexistence. I mean, just look at any post-war newsreels for that. Once the people that participated in making the peace die, their children remember the conflict and carry some of the tension with them. But then their children don't have any experience about it at all, so they get a clean slate of coexistence with the opposing faction. The comic makes no mention of a war or anything, only giving us the throwaway line that integration was decades ago. But really that's all we need, along with this one guy at the intersection. We are seeing the tail end of two cultures trying to come together to live in harmony and keeping a tentative peace while everyone tries to be on their best behavior. I noticed right away that older passers-by have their own slurs, and there's clearly some tension in the older generations. A pred that is dating a prey is called a poacher, and a prey that wants a pred companion is called a tawner. The younger generation is far kinder than the older ones are. I mean, Penn is crushing on a coyote boy, and Rosa bagged the fox girl earlier, so cultural tensions among young people must not be too bad. You know, make love, not war, and all that good stuff. The Day We Met is about prejudice, queerness, and navigating relationships between people that come from very different backgrounds. What better place to do that than a college campus? While it is a slice-of-life romance comic, and those are a dime a dozen in the furry community, it is very lean and trimmed down to just what we, the audience, want to see. There's no pages devoted to Penn going to class or hanging out with other friends or studying. The comic has trimmed all the fat because it knows that we are here for Penn and Indy. Promising the audience something and then giving it to them is honestly a rarer commodity in furry comics than you might imagine. So I was pleasantly surprised to see how slim, trim, and racy the script actually was. This comic knows what it is, focuses on why we're all here, and dispenses with everything else that we, the audience, don't care about. Very tight writing. Penn and Indy make for a charming and believable couple, and I can't wait to see how they get together and try to make this work. So, all that being said, should you read The Day We Met? Absolutely. This is the most glowing review I think I've given in a long time. The artwork is a masterclass of posing and expressions, the world building is top tier and without tedious explanations. The writing is probably the tightest I have ever seen, with no extra fat to trim off, and quite frankly, the main couple is really worth rooting for. This comic is extraordinary and a masterwork of the medium. This artist knows how to make good art and write a good story and build a believable world, and rare be it that I see someone that has the whole trifecta. I'm not even gonna say check it out. I'm gonna say go read it right now. This comic is great.